What's going on? My name's Chad. I'm your Tall Tailor. This is part 2 in a, I guess, 2-part series of showing you guys how I make my 3D cargo pockets. In video 1, I go over how to make the square type boxy 3D cargo pockets, and in this video I'm going to go over how to make the more round organic shaped 3D cargo pockets. In no way am I saying that this is the only or even the best way to make cargo pockets. I'm just showing you guys how I make them, and hopefully it'll help you guys make them yourselves. If you want to see some examples of how the pockets are used in the garments I make, check out the vests on my Instagram at the Tall Tailor. That's enough talking, let's get to sewing. All right, so before we draw the pocket, it's going to be made into 2 stages. The first stage is we're going to make a little face for the pocket, and then the second stage we're going to make a strip around that. We're going to sew the strip to the face and the entire assembly to the garment. Cool? Let's get started. So starting off a round pocket tutorial, like we start any sewing project, we're going to have to draw out what we want to cut and sew so we have a better understanding of what we're doing, so we're not just like cutting and sewing all over the place. For me, I want to make a rectangular square shaped pocket. I'm not sure if it's rectangular or square, I'll figure that out later. But like a sort of boxy shaped pocket with rounded edges. So that's what we're gonna try and achieve here in this tutorial. First off, I wanna figure out how much space I have. If you hear like some stuff in the background, my window's open, so it's you can hear like the road and stuff. To start off, I wanna figure out how large I wanna make my pockets. Again, you wanna do some pre-measuring, but I already measured the space I have, and I want my pocket to be 6 inches by 6 inches. So that's gonna be a square, 6 inches by 6 inches. So I'm just gonna draw that out right now. After we have our primary drawing about how big we want the pocket to be, what I want to do now is add the seam allowance. So I always use a 1/4 inch seam allowance for my pockets. Well, sometimes I use 1/2 inch. In this case, I'm going to use a 1/4 inch. So all I have to do now is add a 1/4 inch seam allowance on each side, and I'll just represent that by dashed lines and a little box in the corner. So that's going to change the overall length of the pocket. So this is going to go from 6 inches. Add that together, that's going to be 6.5 inches. Now that we have our pocket size and the seam allowance, we're just gonna go cut it out. If you have pattern paper, go grab pattern paper. I literally like never have any pattern paper, so I'm just gonna use some construction paper. So grab your construction paper, your pattern paper, and we're just gonna make a little pattern for the pocket. All right, now that I have a square that's 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches, what we're gonna do is grab something round and round the edges. I'm just gonna use this lid and line it up on the edges of the square that I just drew, and grab my pencil, and I'm just gonna trace the edges. I just do that for all 4 corners, and I'll get a nice rounded edge. All right, perfect. So I used the round container lid or round object and rounded the edges, and this is a really good sort of pocket size for me. Remember, this isn't gonna be the exact size because the seam allowance is gonna take it in a little bit. Now what we wanna do is take your paper scissors. We just wanna cut around the edge, all the way around of the edge that we just outlined. All right, so with our pocket piece cut out, we should have this little excess piece here. Don't throw this out, we're gonna keep it, we're gonna use it for another part. After this is done, just set these 2 pieces aside and come back to our book. So the drawing that we just had are 6.5 inches on each side. What we're gonna do next is we're going to figure out how deep, or I guess how much we want the pocket to protrude from the surface of the garment. So for this pocket, we gotta figure out the depth of the pocket, and for that we need our zipper. And how we determine that is we add the width of the zipper. In my case, it's 1 1/4 inch plus the seam allowance, which is 1/4 inch on each side. That brings me up to 1 3/4 inch. So we can just leave it here, but I want the pocket to be a little bit larger, so I'm just gonna round it up to 2 inches. So I'm gonna make the depth of my pocket 2 inches. All right, now that we have the depth of our pocket, how much, again, it's gonna protrude from the surface of the garment, which is, in this case, 2 inches. We need to figure out the length of our pocket. And how we determine that is we come back to our excess cutting place here, and we take our scissors, and I forget what this technique is called, but we kind of snip. We actually need some tape for this as well too. We wanna just cut behind the, like on the other side of the paper, as close as we can to the edge. Don't cut all the way through, but we just cut pretty close to the edge, and we just wanna do is, we wanna line it up till we get a straight line. And I'm just gonna do that and I'll show you guys what it looks like. So after I did that technique, we can take our ruler, or in my case, a tape measure, and determine the length. Yeah, so I already measured mine and I got up to 23¼ inches long. And when we have that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add 1/4 inch of seam allowance on each side. So 1/4 inch here, 1/4 inch here, and add that to our total length. So 23¼ inches plus 1/4 plus 1/4 comes up to 23¾ inch. So that's gonna be our total length, including our seam allowance. So 23¾ inch is gonna be our total length. Again, I hope that's not too confusing, but just the total length of this strip plus the seam allowance. We're gonna use that value as the length of the strip. Again, we have, I hope this isn't too confusing, we have the pocket face here, and then we're adding a strip around the side, and that length of the strip is going to be 23¼ inches plus the 2 inches of depth. So we're gonna cut a strip out that's 2 inches by 23¼ inches long. Now that we measured this, we're going to cut out the pocket in fabric, so this pocket right here, and we're also going to cut out the strip, cut all that out, and then I'll come back to you. All right, cool. After that's cut out, we cut out our pocket and we cut out the flap that goes around it. What we're going to do is make little notches on our pocket. So we can just fold our pocket in half. And on the seams of the pocket, we're just gonna snip little tiny notches. And that's just so that we know where the midline of the pocket is when we open it up and we later on attach this part. We're just gonna know where the midline is. And then we're gonna do that same thing to the strip. Little small notches, perfect. So after we do this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna add in our zipper. Where's the zipper? Here's the zipper. But how we put in the zipper, first off, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure the zipper part, so not the tape, just the length of the whole zipper, and it is 12 inches. Oh, that's perfect. Okay, so it's 12 inches, and that's just from the metal edge here to the slider of the zipper, so 12 inches. First, I'm gonna find the midline of this. This is 2 inches long, so it should be at 1 inch, and we're gonna measure out, as I said, 12 inches right on the line. Boom, so that's the entire length of the zipper. Now, after we got that, I'm just gonna focus on one portion of the zipper so you guys can see. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure 1/2 inch up and then measure the width of the zipper is 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch on each side of the line. To make this little box here, I'm gonna make a triangle 1/2 inch up and 1/4 inch on each side of the line and just connect those lines. So as you can see here, I got a little triangle. I'm gonna take this iron and clean up the edges so you guys can see the triangle a little bit better. There you go. Hopefully you guys can see that triangle a lot better. And I'm basically gonna do the exact same thing on the other side. So once we have that down, I'm gonna take my scissors and cut the line. And right when I get to the triangle, instead of cutting all the way through, I'm gonna cut the lines of the triangle. Let me put that down so you guys can see. I'm gonna do that on the other side. Perfect, so we got these two flaps on either side and we have a slit in the middle. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our zipper and we're gonna stitch it on. Flip it to the wrong side and I take my iron down these little flaps on both sides, fold the side in 1/4 inch, and just take my iron and I iron it down. And I do that to the other side. Make sure don't like burn your hands or anything. After I ironed it and I flip this right side up, you can see the edges are a lot cleaner. And it's a perfect place for me to insert the zipper. So I'm just gonna take this to a sewing machine, sew on the zipper, and I'll be right back. All right, let's just zoom in here. The zipper is done. You can see the zipper works pretty well. Perfect, and this is what the back side looks like. So once you have your zipper sewn in, what you wanna do is you wanna take your strip and then sew it together face to face at 1/4 inch seam allowance. So just stitch right here, 1/4" seam allowance. And if you have a serger and overlock machine, you can just overlock that edge as well too. If you don't have one, again, don't worry about it. It's the interior of the pocket, so no one's really gonna see it, but I'm just gonna overlock mine so it looks a lot nicer. Now that we have this sewn, what we're going to do is we're going to take our pocket face. So remember those notches we made before? Line the 2 notches up together, that right there. So the front face of the fabric, the part of the zipper, and this fabric here together. Just do it face to face and then pin all the way around. All right, so once you have it all pinned up, just take this to the machine and stitch at 1/4 inch all the way around here. Cool. All right, now you can really see the pocket. Oh, focus. Guess you can't see the pocket because it won't focus. Now you can really see the pocket coming into shape. As you can see here, I just took it to the overlock machine after I stitch it and I overlock the ends. So it's nice and neat. Again, this isn't something you have to do. You can leave it raw on the inside if you want to, but I just recommend that you overlock it, or even if you don't have an overlock machine, take it to the machine and just put a zigzag stitch really close around the edge. After that's done, we're gonna do one more step. Now this isn't a necessary step, it's just something to add a little bit more neatness and make the pocket look a little bit cleaner. So what you wanna do is you wanna take the end, the part that you just sewn, and you want to flip it down so that it is onto the strip, and you want to just top stitch that all the way around the edge. I'm just going to take this over to the machine. I'm just going to do that and I'll be right back. All right, so the top stitch on the outside is done. I've just stitched down the overlocking, or zigzag if you don't have an overlock machine, and it looks a little bit cleaner on the interior. So at this point, we should have our pocket finished. So now we're going to attach this pocket onto the garment. Now what we want to do is we want to take our pattern piece, the piece that we had before, and reduce it in size around the circumference by 1/4 inch. I've already drew a line around the edge. As you can see, that line is 1/4 inch. Once we cut it out, we're going to draw it onto our pattern and just get some like chalk or a pencil or something just to draw that out. All right, so I finished outlining the pattern onto the garment. This is a vest because I make a lot of vests. In this case, I made 2 because I'm going to be making 2 pockets. We'll just focus on one for now. So after you outline your pattern onto your garment, what you want to do is you want to draw in little notch lines here on the top and the bottom. Pretty much like cuts the pocket in half, one on the top and one on the bottom. And it's going to line up with the notches that we cut on the pocket. This next part is going to be the most difficult, tedious, it's like the hardest part. So what we want to do is we want to take the notch that we cut on our pocket before, notch right here, fold the inside in by 1/4 inch and line it up with the little line that we drew here on the top, and do the same thing with the bottom. Pin all the way around the edges so that we have a nice secure place for us to sew. So I'm going to pin it up and I'm going to come back to you. That's a lot of pins. So I pinned up all the sides, and again, when you're pinning them, I recommend pinning the top notch and the bottom notch first, and then sort of going around little by little, just to make sure it all lines up in case your measurements weren't 100%. So it'll line up in the pocket, will be nice and centered, nice and square. After you finish pinning this down, what you want to do is you want to take this to the sewing machine and stitch all the way around. And when you're sewing, I recommend to lower the stitch length so you'll have more stitches per inch. That way you'll have a more secure bond to the fabric since we're just top stitching the pocket on. All right, so let's take this to the machine and let's get to sewing. We're done. This is what the pocket looks like when you finish top stitching it. Nice and round, the zipper on the side. but yeah, this can sort of give you an idea about how the pockets are made. And I made different sizes. So on this side, I have more of a sort of large cylindrical pocket, and I even made some on the back too. This one's sort of like a large square shaped pocket, and this one's like a small like pill shaped pocket. You can have zippers around the edge like it is here, or you can even put a zipper, instead of around the edge, you can put it on the face of the pocket. That's also another option you can do. I just did it all around the edge because aesthetically I thought that looked a lot better. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video helped. As I said in my last video, I got a lot of DMs asking how I make the pockets. Hopefully this clears a lot of stuff up. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comments section below. Yeah, if you want to see how to make the square boxy pockets, check out the previous video. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at the Tall Tailor. I'll see you guys in the next video. Yeah, stay safe, wash your hands, because cases are rising back up. So yeah, bye.